The sound of flesh striking flesh silenced the dining room before my mind could process what happened. My daughter, just 6 years old, stood frozen beside the table, her small hand rising slowly to her reddening cheek, eyes wide with confusion and hurt. The half-eaten cutlet that had fallen from her plate lay forgotten on the polished floor. My mother-in-law towered over her, nostrils flaring, the serving plate still clutched in her white-knuckled grip. "You little brat," she hissed, voice dripping with a venom I'd never heard directed at a child. "You're just as selfish as your father." Soft chuckles rippled through the room, growing into unrestrained laughter. I watched my wife, Kate, suddenly become intensely focused on straightening her napkin, refusing to meet my gaze. No one moved to comfort my daughter. No one challenged the old woman. The room tilted strangely as something fundamental shifted inside me, not hot rage but something colder, deeper, more dangerous. My name is Noah, I'm 34 and a structural engineer. This is the story of how I rebuilt my life after discovering it was built on lies. I'd always been the outsider in Kate's family, the man who wasn't quite good enough, who didn't come from the right background, who should consider himself lucky to have married into their world. For 7 years, I'd weathered their thinly veiled contempt with forced smiles and practiced patience. I'd believed that maintaining peace was worth the occasional indignity. Until tonight. As laughter echoed around us, I rose from my chair with deliberate slowness. The room quieted as I approached my mother-in-law, Victoria. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I leaned close enough that only she could hear my words. "You should never have said that," I whispered. Not a threat, a simple statement of fact. Her eyes widened. She tried to step back, but my calm unnerved her more than anger would have. The practiced superiority in her expression cracked, revealing something I'd never seen before: fear. That evening ended with forced apologies and insincere reconciliation. "Just a misunderstanding," they said. "Let's put it behind us," they insisted. I nodded and smiled while something crystallized inside me, a quiet, immovable resolve. Later that night, I sat on our back porch watching the lights of Victoria's house glowing across our shared backyard. Too bright, too confident, like everything else about her. I replayed her words, the specific phrasing bouncing through my mind like a ricocheting bullet. "You're just as selfish as your father. Not your daddy. Not Noah. Your father," spoken with such intimate contempt, such personal knowledge. The splinter of doubt that had been lodged in my mind for years suddenly drove deeper. Inside, my daughter Lily slept with an ice pack beside her bed, her cheek still bearing the imprint of her grandmother's hand. I studied her face, the features I'd always attributed to Kate, never quite seeing myself. The doubt bloomed into something more substantial, more terrifying. Over the next week, I became a quiet observer in my own home. Kate jumped whenever her phone buzzed. She took calls in the bathroom, voice low and urgent. Victoria called every night, their conversations hushed and tense. I caught fragments, "He can't know," and "we agreed," that only deepened my suspicion. At dinner one evening, Lily looked up from her plate with innocent curiosity. "Daddy, why doesn't Grandma like you?" Kate's smile appeared too quickly, too brightly. "She's just old, sweetheart. Old people get grumpy sometimes. Old. Cruel. And perhaps keeping a secret I'd been too trusting to see." While organizing our storage closet, I discovered a showbox of old photographs I'd never seen before. Among them, a picture that stopped my breath, Lily as a newborn, cradled not by me, I'd been working late that day or so I remembered, but by Kate and Victoria. Their expressions told a story, Kate's eyes red-rimmed but relieved, Victoria triumphant, both looking at someone standing behind the camera. I flipped the photo over. Faint handwriting I recognized as Kate's, "For you, Mom. We did it. We did it." 3 words that collapsed 7 years of marriage into rubble. That night, while Lily and Kate slept, I gently swabbed the inside of my daughter's cheek. A simple act that felt simultaneously like the greatest betrayal and the most profound love. I'd ordered a home DNA test kit days earlier after my suspicions about Victoria's comment and the mysterious photo had grown too strong to ignore. 3 days later, the DNA report arrived in a plain envelope addressed only to me. I sat at our kitchen table for hours, staring at the single page that had demolished my reality. Probability of paternity, 0%. No tears came. No rage consumed me. Just a vast, cavernous silence. I called Kate. "Come home," I said evenly. "Bring your mother." They arrived together, sharing glances that confirmed they already suspected why I'd called. I slid the envelope across the table. Beside it lay Lily's latest drawing, the 3 of us holding hands beneath a crayon sun, family printed in her uneven handwriting. Kate's hands trembled as she read the results. Her face drained of color. "You knew," I said quietly. Not a question. Victoria recovered first, her voice sharp with defensive anger. You wouldn't have taken care of them if you knew the truth. I smiled faintly. No, but I stayed long enough to discover it. Without raising my voice or making threats, I placed another set of documents on the table: bank statements, property deeds, and divorce papers. All meticulously prepared, all already signed. I transferred everything to new accounts 2 weeks ago, I explained, before I ordered the test. I just needed to confirm whether my suspicion warranted this response. Kate stared at me, paralyzed. Victoria's face contorted with disbelief. You planned this? Yes. I stood, gathering the papers into a neat stack. Lily stays with me. You two can return to wherever you came from. But remember, when you call her selfish, you're talking about yourselves. Kate began to sob. Victoria opened her mouth, but I'd already turned away. I'd heard everything I needed to hear years ago, I just hadn't been listening. As they left, I didn't ask about Lily's biological father. Perhaps it was Kate's college boyfriend, the one Victoria had always preferred, but knowing wouldn't change my love for Lily or my decision to raise her as my own. The next morning, the house was quieter, lighter somehow. Lily sat at the breakfast table, finishing her cereal, her movements more relaxed than I'd seen in months. She looked up when she noticed me watching. Is Grandma coming back? No, I said softly. She's not. She nodded and returned to her breakfast, satisfied in the simple, honest way children often are when toxic presences leave their world. I poured myself coffee and sat beside her, letting the silence wrap around us like a blanket. For the first time in years, that silence felt healing rather than strained. 6 months later, our divorce was finalized. Kate moved across the country with Victoria, both agreeing to relinquish all parental rights to Lily in exchange for me dropping any claims of fraud. I had sole legal and physical custody of my daughter, legally mine now in every way that mattered. Betrayal doesn't destroy you unless you let it. Instead, it refines you, burning away the illusions you mistook for love and leaving behind something stronger, clearer, more authentic. As morning sunlight streamed through our windows, I watched my daughter, still my daughter in every way that truly mattered, laugh quietly to herself. And I realized that the last cutlet was never the issue. The real problem had always been who believed they owned not just the plate, but our lives and truth itself.